Welcome to Didsbury, a town known for its history, culture, and community. Do you ever wonder how a community like Didsbury can operate? Do you know how property taxes are calculated and how your taxes are distributed throughout the community? Well, let's break it down for you. The tax dollars in Didsbury cover three core areas. A portion of your taxes is allocated to the Alberta School Foundation Fund, which is provincially required. This pool of funds allows all students to access quality education across Alberta. Each homeowner gets the choice to put this money towards public or separate schools. Although these funds are distributed province-wide, an example of these funds being used in Didsbury would be the public schools Ross Ford or Didsbury High. Another portion of your taxes is allocated to seniors housing, which is required by Mountain View Seniors Housing. This pool of funds helps provide safe and sustainable living for seniors. An example of these funds being used in Didsbury would be the Aspen Ridge Lodge. The remainder of your tax dollars go to the town of Didsbury, where the funds are distributed to various departments in order to operate the town. These funds are then allocated to services that provide community safety, such as the RCMP, municipal enforcement, fire and emergency management, to services that foster culture, such as the Didsbury Municipal Library and the Didsbury Museum, to services that create community, such as Didsbury Neighborhood Place, Didsbury Out of School Care Association, and Family and Community Support Services, to services that plan for future sustainability and growth, such as asset management, planning, and economic development, to services that provide information and assistance, such as communications and corporate services, to services that maintain safe roads to drive on and pathways to walk on, to services that encourage recreation, such as the Didsbury Memorial Swimming Pool, parks, and the campground, and to services that beautify the town and maintain the cemetery. So now we can understand where all these tax dollars are going, but let's figure out how they're calculated. It all starts with the operating budget. The operating budget is discussed in a public meeting where administration presents the dollar amounts required by each department to operate the town. The council discusses and adjusts the different levels of service which impact the overall budget amount. The public has an opportunity to provide feedback during this process. Once council approves the budget, all known revenues are subtracted, such as any federal or provincial grants. The amount required by Alberta School Foundation Fund and Mountain View Seniors Housing is added back, and now we have a total amount that needs to be collected from taxpayers. So how do we determine exactly how much each resident pays? Well, this has to do with the value of your home, which is calculated through a property assessment. Each year, every property in town is assessed, and the total assessment of all properties is combined to help us determine the tax rate. Let's dive into an example. Let's say that the town of Didsbury has only 3 residential homes. And since there's only 3, let's assume that council decided that $13,000 would be required to operate all of the functions of the town. But the town was expecting $3,000 from federal and provincial grants. This means that the remaining $10,000 is required to be paid by the 3 residential homeowners in town. Now let's say that the first resident owns a house that was assessed to be worth $150,000, the second worth $350,000, and the third worth $500,000. This means that the total assessment in Didsbury is worth $1 million. The calculation is simple. We take the required revenue, the $10,000, and divide it by the total assessment base, which was the $1 million. This gives us a tax rate of 0.01. Now, to calculate what each resident pays individually, we'll take the tax rate of 0.01 and multiply it by the assessed value of each home. So this means that the resident from the first house will pay $1,500 in taxes, the second will pay $3,500 in taxes, and the third will pay $5,000 in taxes. This makes up the total of $10,000 required by taxpayers. So now we understand how taxes are calculated and distributed, and we can think of this as supporting our public amenities to build our community.